Well, hey, I appreciate you taking time out to talk to us at Access Rock today. Um, I've seen you live before, talked to you in person. I met you about 3 years ago, I think, at one of your shows. You're a really cool guy, really nice guy to talk to. You do the songs justice, and now you're doing a White Lion album again of those songs, only slightly reimagined, right? I mean, they're a little bit tweaked. They're all very familiar, but yeah, you kind of put a more, dare I say, modern spin on it, I guess.
Yeah, it's that natural thing that I think that if you asked some of the top ball players in the country if they would if it would throw that special pitch different next time or something like that, it's like when you get a second chance to do something,
Mhm.
and in this case, something 35 years later, there naturally will be a natural change that you're not even in control of yourself.
Sure.
And I'm dealing obviously both with the environment that I'm not 26 anymore. I'm 62. I can't sing like I did. I also don't want to sing like I did. I want the songs and the album to represent, 2023, because when I walk out on stage and have to sing these songs, I want everything to be in harmony with each other. Like you mentioned, you've seen me play, clubs with an acoustic guitar and talk about it. And what you see up there is the person who is aware that he's on that stage and playing in a club for 50 people, maybe 150 people, but giving his all. And that's, to me, what it's all about.
Yeah, and you absolutely do. You kill it live. It's very intimate setting. And I saw you obviously perform some of these songs then. Maybe you tweaked them a little bit for this album from what you were doing in the acoustic set, obviously, because this is electric, you got a little bit more instrumentation. But yeah, they really do them justice, and I think it's fitting also, like you said, you're 62 now, not not 26. So of course your voice is going to change. I'm sure your range is not quite what it was for the screams and the higher pitch.
Not at all, of course. And the thing is that already at the, this is kind of like, usually it's only pornography actors who have to deal with this issue. But the thing is, like, I don't want to have to, excuse myself a delay already on the final White Lion album, Main Attraction, in 91. I was already changing, and there was no way that I was going to go back to that very high young voice I had in those years. It wasn't something that I planned. There were no technique to that. It was just how I sang, and that kind of voice would with time change itself. And eventually, now I'm a grown man. I have 3 children. I own a farm. It's like when I go out and do these White Lion songs, I go out there with a full knowledge and control of these songs. And it's a wonderful feeling. I mean, I'm very proud of what I did in the 80s, and grateful to be a special guest in front of AC/DC, Ozzy Osbourne, or Aerosmith and stuff like that. And I used to run out on stage and just, go full hammer, man. Now I go out there and you feel that this is a man. This is like Moses walking out there. He's knowledgeable.
Yeah, I think it's for lack of a better word, I think it has a maturity to it.
Exactly.
I've had a chance to listen to the new album of the White Lion songs that you're doing here, and yeah, it's got a maturity to it. Still, like I said, very recognizable. Still true to the original song that you guys wrote together. But yeah, that maturity that you bring to it, and with experience too, I'm sure over the years, really lends itself to these songs. And I think fans of White Lion's material will really enjoy these because it's enough of a difference to kind of make you want to add it to your collection as a completely different song, if you will.
Yeah, no. I mean, the thing is, there are two. I'm not that big big on the word fan. Sometimes it sounds like degrading, but they're just music lovers.
Yes.
They're those who decided to follow me through my career. And I have 14 solo albums, and I have 3 albums with Freak of Nature. So I mean, I have a lot of music to my name, and some of them have grown just like I have grown through life, dealt with good or bad things in life, death and rebirth and birth and all these kind of things. And that's also where the music is. I mean, I think they're doing another Indiana Jones. I mean, what do we expect Harrison Ford to come back as young Indy? No, we can't. He's on his last leg, and that's what the movie will be about, and that's what the movie should be about. Just like the last Rambo, which in maybe he really shouldn't have done, but you know what I'm getting at.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I think that's, I mean, I suppose it's a bit humbling, but you seem very, very in tune with it, very aware of it, and at peace with who you are, and what your capabilities are now as far in your singing style, and just who you. I'm sure your life experiences have changed you somewhat too. So you approach all of this material, I'm sure, in a completely different way from having that. Hindsight's 2020, but having experience along the years
I
of
mean, it would be
doing your
impossible.
material.
Yeah, I mean, it would be impossible for me to wake up every morning and being bitter about that I'm not playing stadiums like Motley Crue. I mean, the thing is that, I'm very realistic, and all I had to do, I mean, like I said, once again, you've seen me on some of these tours when I'm just driving my own rental car around America and going into a club with a suitcase of t-shirts and an acoustic guitar on the other hand. I come from nothing. I know what it's like living on the street. I'm very comfortable there. Actually, I'm much more comfortable there than hiding behind a pair of mirrored sunglasses and coming out of the limousine. He was basically a part that Mike Tramp did not play very well.
Well, I appreciate that from you, and when I see you live, especially like I said, the intimate acoustic sets, you pour a lot of emotion into it, and yeah, I like that aspect. I like the aspect that you're touring to bring your music to people, regardless, like you said, if it's 50, 100, or 1,000, or stadiums like you did back in the old days. You bring it all to the table when you perform, and it sounds like you've done that well in this studio album also.
Yeah,
And you've got some great players on this with you. Obviously, the guitarist is not Vito Bratta, but he's very good. I mean, he just has his own tone. I don't mean anything negative by that.
I totally understand what you say. I mean, that's you couldn't get around that in any way. Actually, Marcus Nand, who's playing the guitar there, I mean, he's playing homage to Vito Bratta in this. He's a great admirer of Vito and things like that. And the message from me to him was, you gotta have to copy Vito as much as you can. But Marcus have gone out and done something that most guitar players would not even dare to do, and that's to learn Vito's guitar riffs in another key.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. And he did an excellent job. I mean, you can still hear that he has his own distinct style in there. I mean, like I said, each person is different. And clearly when you perform with an instrument like that, you express yourself differently. But I mean, a fantastic job, as good as anybody could do to try to, match what Vito did back in the day.
Yeah, sure.
I would actually like to ask a question, and I know you've been asked this many times, and I know Vito kind of does his own thing these days.
What is that thing?
What is the main underlying reason that you guys would probably never reform White Lion?
I couldn't truthfully answer that, but I know, and I can say officially, that there will not be a reunion. I am on good terms with Vito. And I'm on very good terms with James Lomenzo, a bass player who has been very successful in Megadeth for many years.
Sure.
And I'm also on good terms with Greg D'Angelo, the drummer. There is no wish for this band to be back together. I don't think that White Lion reuniting would be as good as White Lion 1990.
Yeah, the point. I
And
mean, it's kind of the quit while you're ahead thing, right? I mean, you went out on the top.
you know what? White Lion played its final show September 2nd, 1991. Since that day, and I don't mean this in any degrading way, Vito has not been on stage and in the studio. That is 31 years ago.
Sure.
I know that every day they're talking about that Tom Brady might come back. You know, but this
Yeah,
might
and that's a long time. I mean, yeah, so let's just say he plays at home every day. I mean, it's still different, you know, it's still different in doing the rigors of doing show after show.
My Tramp has not stopped since that day. I mean, like I mentioned before, I've done almost 20 albums since
yeah.
since I ended White Lion, and I've probably done thousands of concerts. I've been around the world. I've fathered 3 children. It wasn't the plan, but I've done a lot, and I've rebuilt a massive farm with my own hands and stuff like that, and et cetera, et cetera. It's all who we are. And Vito would be the first one to describe me as I've described myself. And it's just the way it's, and I respect Vito all the way.
Yeah.
And things like that. And we've had our ins and outs just in the beginning until I also found out that I would not be touring as White Lion. This is Mike Tramp, Songs of White Lion. And this is the album cover is basically a concert poster. It will be there. So when you walk up there, you will know what you're going into.
Yes. Yeah, and I don't think anybody thinks you're misrepresenting, your former band there, White Lion, as, this being the entire band. And you have such a, you mentioned the albums, you have such a prolific career. I mean, you've really cranked out a lot of albums and quality material at that. And I followed your career through as well, and yeah, it's just great. I would highly encourage White Lion fans who have not kept up with you that closely to check into that back catalog. Besides your solo stuff like Freaks of Nature, other side projects that you've done over the years that are just excellent. And you have you put your stamp on everything you do. And it's, again, it always comes with a sense of quality and pride.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I mean, it's always been my mission. I mean, it was never in the planner that one day in the future I would be doing Songs of White Lion. But the thing is that since I ended White Lion in 91, I mean, I've carried this backpack on my back. Sure. And everything that I've done, every concert that I've done around the world, the poster has mentioned White Lion.
Yeah, I mean, you're never going to do, and I'm sure you're, again, completely aware of that. You're never going to do a show where you're not going to have fans turn up and want to hear White Lion songs. Because
yeah, and you know what? It simply just has taken long enough to figure out. But then when I find one thing is with me standing by myself, playing the songs acoustic, then all my original, my solo album songs and the White Lion songs have a similarity because it's the same songwriter.
Sure.
The second I go out with my solo Band of Brothers, which is much closer to Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers and Springsteen and the E Street Band, I can't play White Lion because they're not those kind of musicians.
Sure.
So if I'm going to do White Lion Electric, I have to do it as close to the way White Lion played them.
Yeah, and I think you've done a remarkable job of this. Like I said, very impressive. That brings me to another question so you guys did quite a few albums back in the day. Is there any leftover material from back the original band, maybe that might see the light of day sometime? Or is that just everything you had, you put out?
Yeah, I mean, actually, no, because Vito and I were these kind of writers that basically felt like when we wrote the album and for the album, we wrote it almost like a book, chapter by chapter. And when we felt, okay, this is a final chapter, we believed in the songs we wrote, and we sort of were given the finger to both record company or producers as, you are not going to pick the songs for the album. We have written the songs for the album.
Nice. Very nice. So yeah, so there wasn't any extra or leftover material. What you put together was it.
No, not that has been recorded there. There are some early stuff that in the very early years that I have somewhere on cassette tapes, and maybe I don't know. I can't sit and promise anything. Maybe I would one day maybe take them out and see if I could give them justice. But there's nothing that's been recorded in the studio of Peter Pan and my Tramp songs, for White Lion.
I got you. Well, diehard fans like myself love to hear anything and everything you guys put out. So
appreciate that.
So obviously, even I mean, I'm speaking for myself, but even lesser quality demo tapes, I love it all. It's just
yeah. Well,
cool.
I mean, this is the age for that, man. We all love to go back to things we've never heard before.
Nostalgia is big right now, and we all want to kind of relive what we can, of time periods that were important to us. And the songs that you have written have really, they've really maintained well. I mean, and I think the lyrical content, the musical content as well, but they don't seem dated or out of place. I mean, I know '80s was kind of a whirlwind, kind of a 10-year period there that a lot of stuff happened. And some of that stuff, obviously from the '80s, does seem very dated. But you guys wrote some excellent material. Some of those ballads, they still the lyrics still hold true, today, and so they don't feel like they're from, back in the past. They feel like they're just as relevant today. I think, especially a lot of the songs you chose for this album.
Well, I mean, I so much appreciate you saying that in great details, because obviously it's how I feel too, but getting it confirmed from every interview that I've done in almost the exact words that you've just spoken really thrills me. And I know that this is basically also where you see that White Lion was very unique in its own way and stood by themselves. You can't come in Circus Magazine anno 1987, you put Vince Neil, Mike Tramp, Bret Michaels, Sebastian Bach, and they're all blonde lead singers.
Sure.
But when you put the albums next to each other, you cannot compare us. Those bands that I mentioned have more in common with each other than we White Lion have with them. And as a European and with a completely different upbringing, it was always my wish to write lyrics and with substance and subjects that the others didn't do. It was very unnatural for me to, sexual quotations and innuendos. It's not natural for me. I'm not good at that.
Sure.
It's not how I am as a person. It's not, I don't constantly live in that world, Yeah. So with songs like Cry for Freedom, Little Fighter, When the Children Cry, Lady of the Valley, I mean, I have written lyrics that 40 years later, I'm not embarrassed singing.
Yeah, and I think they're great. And you make an excellent point there, because sometimes when I talk to these guys, and you bring up something from the '80s, some of those other bands you mentioned, they're almost embarrassed, like, yeah, well, when we wrote that, we were kind of, we were kids ourselves, it's different time period, And so it really doesn't transition well. But, like When the Children Cry, I mean, you look at the situation that's happening in the Ukraine-Russian war,
Exactly.
I mean, you could apply that to so many real life experiences right now, and those lyrics are still just as relevant as ever.
I mean, I wrote that song in 1985, sitting with my acoustic guitar in my manager's house. If you go back to '85, Ronald Reagan is the president, and America is as strong as the strongest bear on earth.
Yeah.
Everybody is smiling on the street. I know there's probably issues going on, but basically humanity in the Western world is doing pretty well and on their own, happy-go-lucky, and here I am sitting writing a song about 2023.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I say. That relevance is there. When I heard it, when I was listening to this album, that I got the promo copy of, I mean, immediately that's what I thought of. It's like, wow. I mean, this fits right into, events that are happening today. A lot of this material, the lyrics that you wrote, are just, perfectly fit for today's world, that much farther, away from the time you truly wrote them. So I'm not saying you're prophetic or anything, but certainly it
Oh,
was,
no, but
well,
I found it interesting that at the same time as Motley Crue's doing Home Sweet Home and Poison is doing Every Rose Has a Thorn, and the ballads, are being, every band comes out with a ballad.
sure.
We come out with one that's very different.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think a lot of your lyrics appeal to human emotions and real feelings, real events, as opposed to kind of the playful silliness. I mean, not that you guys didn't have a little bit of that. You're a rock and roll band, from the 80s,
Exactly.
but yeah, I mean, overall, you guys had a little more substance. I guess I could say that,
Yeah,
so
no, without a doubt. I mean,
yeah,
we took part in the party too. It
yeah,
just wasn't our message in our music.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So tell me a little bit about this tour. Are you going to do more of an extended tour this time? It seems like you're always on
I
tour,
mean,
but
this is already leading up to be a big year with this, of course, and this is going to be carrying on into 24 too. I'm just starting up with a northeast, a little west,
yeah,
coast tour of a month, like actually 22 shows in the month of May.
wow,
Uh, with the power duo with me and Marcus Nand, the guitar player, where we both are playing electric guitars and we have a little bit of a drum loop. So the songs are getting, we're gonna put some power out through the speakers, and it's a tour that I would not be able to do with a band, both financially and stuff like
sure.
that. So to just kick it off, we're doing it this way, and hopefully, later in the year, and then we got almost the whole summer in Europe on all the big rock festivals
Nice.
with full band, and then I'm aiming at of course getting back and finally playing full band shows in America.
Well, like I said, I greatly appreciate what you do because there are very few people that do what you do in a way that I have the utmost respect for, and that is, like I said earlier, you live the music, you feel it. You go out, you rent a van or whatever, and you just go town to town, putting this out, and put on a great show. And I just appreciate that. There's very few people that fit into that role anymore. I mean, I think most people start rock bands for money or girls, the fame or whatever, and you literally do it for all the right reasons, and I just appreciate that so much.
Yeah, well, it. You know what? I just chose to do it my way, and
Yeah.
I do admire the ones who've done it for the girls and the money too.
Sure.
I gave up along the way on that.
Well, I think you've really found your way. I think you found a nice, niche, and your fans are following you. I know when I go to your shows, the fans are all ravenous. And I encourage people to come see you. I mean, you're very open, you're very honest with the crowd, very approachable. I know, a lot of times people do the meet and greets with you, and yeah, you're just a real honest guy. And I wish you all the luck in the world with this little, with the tour for this album, of course, and then, of course, this album coming out. I'm glad to see these songs kind of see the light of day again in a new modernized form, with a new spin on it. So yeah, great job. Looking forward to this hitting the streets and everybody being able to get their hands and ears on it, because quality material once again. Really appreciate it.
And no, I'm the one appreciating your kind words, and it. I mean, right now everything it just feels good. I mean, it's just sort of like you've had your chance at doing a couple of things, and now this time you somehow get it right. Not meaning dissing what we did in the 80s weren't right, but
Sure.
it just feels like everything that I set out to do with this album and the tours to follow just balances with who I am and what I want to do.
Yeah, I think it comes across as a very yeah, I'm lacking the words here. Comes across as a very sincere tribute to the material that you did. and then who you are now today mixed with it. I think people will hear that and absolutely get that from it, and I think that's where, you know, what you're trying to do at this point in
Yeah,
time.
if I was to be going out on this and this being my final swan song and stuff like that,
Sure.
this is a nice way of going out.
Yeah, well, hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully you keep doing what you do, because you know, every album has been incredible. So I enjoy the new music. You know, that happens to a lot of bands. They go kind of on a greatest hits tour and they stop recording or making new material. You're not one of those people that done that. And believe me, for music fans like myself, music lovers, that's great, because I like to still hear new music from you guys. I like to hear that creativity. I like to hear what you do, even if it's different, you know, again, because I've also aged myself over the years as a fan. So I'm not in the same place I was in 1987 or whatever. Also, so, you know, I've matured right along with the types of songs and lyrics and things that, you know, that you've put out now, and certainly appreciate new material from you guys. It still gives us sort of a tie to the past, but then some kind of a little bit of an anchor to where we are now too, because music really speaks to people. I have so many images in my head, I think, that I tie to songs, you know, songs that are relevant throughout my life. I mean, I hear that song and it brings back visual images of my life. And I think as music lovers, we all really do that. And, you know, you're one of those people that can conjure up those kind of images with your words. And yeah, just
Yeah, you
keep
know,
doing what you're doing, Mike. I mean, it's incredible stuff.
it's the music version of Where Were You Where OJ, you know.
Absolutely.
Memories are memories.
Well, thank you so much, Mike, for taking time out. Like I said, I know you're a busy guy. You're always busy doing something. Keep in touch with us so we know what's going on with you. We'll post any updates we get here, you know, for new tour dates and things for the tour for this album. And look forward to what comes next for you.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. And thanks to all your listeners for the support through the many years. I will do my best to always be on my best.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate it greatly.
Bro, thanks.
Bye-bye.